They see your pain, they voice your deepest fears, and you feel instantly safe. Why does this profound understanding make you suddenly vulnerable to control? This is the dark psychological paradox of false empathy, understanding used as a strategic weapon. You know that feeling, right? That incredible rush of relief when someone truly gets you? It's one of the most powerful connections we can feel. It's a basic human need. But what if that connection isn't real? What if I told you it was a meticulously crafted illusion, designed not to help you but to control you? Well, today we are going to deconstruct that exact paradox, how our deep, natural need to be understood can be systematically turned into a weapon against us. So this brings us to what we're calling the empathy paradox. On one hand, feeling understood is just profoundly rewarding. It quiets our anxieties, it validates everything we're going through, and it builds this foundation of trust that feels unbreakable. It's like finding a safe harbor in a storm. But here's the twist. That very feeling of safety can be the thing that switches off our critical thinking. In that state of pure, grateful relief, our defenses just drop, leaving us completely vulnerable. That moment of connection, it can become a gateway to control. Okay, let's move from the paradox to the weapon itself. Let's talk about the sympathy trap. Now, to be perfectly clear, we're not talking about some simple misunderstanding or a clumsy attempt to connect with someone. No, this is a calculated psychological tactic. It's a conscious strategy, a move designed from the ground up to exploit our deepest emotional needs for someone else's personal gain. And the engine that powers this entire trap is something called false empathy, or pseudo-compassion. The most crucial thing to get here is that this isn't a feeling. It's a performance. It's all an act. It's the strategic display of understanding, the careful mirroring of your words, your fears, your hopes, all for one single purpose: to gain your trust so completely that your logical defenses just go offline. This is a classic tool you see with individuals who have narcissistic or psychopathic traits, people who have learned to perfectly simulate compassion without ever having to actually feel it. To really get this, you gotta understand that empathy isn't just one thing. There's what we call cognitive empathy. That's the intellectual part, the ability to understand what someone is feeling. Think of it like a computer recognizing a pattern. And then there's affective empathy. That's the ability to actually feel and share those emotions. Now, here's the key. Manipulators are often masters of cognitive empathy. They can read you like a book, analyze your emotional state, and predict your reactions with scary accuracy. But they lack the affective part. They don't share your pain, they just observe it as data. And this allows them to calculate their next move without any of that messy, inconvenient compassion getting in the way. So what's the end game of all this cold calculation? It leads to one very specific goal: making it feel morally impossible for you to say no. The whole setup, the perfect validation, that feeling of a profound connection, it's all engineered to back you into an emotional corner. I mean, think about it. After someone has shown you such deep, incredible understanding, how could you possibly refuse them? Saying no would feel ungrateful, maybe even cruel, like you're betraying this special bond they just created out of thin air. The trap isn't just about getting you to say yes, it's about making you feel like a terrible person for even thinking about saying no. So how is this trap actually built? Well, it isn't random. It follows a predictable 3-stage blueprint. Let's pull back the curtain and break down the exact mechanism these manipulators use step by step to get control. First step is stage 1, validation. This is the sympathy hook. The manipulator mirrors your feelings perfectly, sometimes saying things you were feeling even better than you could have said them yourself. This creates an immediate, powerful shot of trust. Then, boom, stage 2 kicks in, indebtedness. This is their leverage. By giving you this gift of understanding, they trigger a deep subconscious sense of reciprocity. Suddenly, you feel like you owe them. They're literally hacking a basic rule of human social interaction. And that leads right into the final move, stage 3, coercion, the demand. Almost immediately after the validation, while you're still floating on that cloud of gratitude, they make their move. They hit you with a self-serving, often way out of proportion request, banking on the fact that you're now psychologically primed to just go along with it. And here's the really critical part. Your psychological defense system, that little voice in your head that would normally question a weird request or an unfair demand, it's been completely disarmed. It's been put to sleep by that incredible, almost euphoric feeling of being understood. Your own relief and your own gratitude become the very tools they use against you. It's a masterclass in psychological exploitation, really. All right, so we've seen the how, that 3-stage mechanism of the trap. But now let's dig into the why. What is the underlying psychology that powers this whole predatory dynamic? What really motivates someone to do this? At its core, it's really a collision of needs. It's a perfect storm. On one side, you've got the manipulator's motivation. They want low-effort access to resources or attention or control. They're looking for what psychologists call supply security, basically a reliable source of whatever they need without having to do the real emotional work of a healthy relationship. And on the other side, you have the target's vulnerability, a deep and often unmet human need for validation. The manipulator spots this need and sees it as the key to a locked door. They offer you the key, and in return, they get everything that's inside. For the target, this validation isn't just nice, it can be incredibly powerful, almost like an addictive hit of relief, especially if you've been feeling isolated or misunderstood for a long time. This emotional rush can be so intense that it completely overrides your logic. Your brain's reward centers are lighting up, and the emotional cost of questioning the manipulator, of admitting this wonderful feeling might be a lie, it just feels way higher than the cost of just doing what they ask. And so logic goes out the window. Okay, I know all of this can sound pretty bleak, but here's the really good news. Understanding the mechanism is the absolute most important step to disarming it. The moment you see it, you can dismantle it. So right now, we're going to shift from analysis to empowerment. Let's walk through a concrete 3-step defense that you can actually use to protect yourself. So the big question becomes, how do you actually do it? When you're in that moment and you're feeling that incredible wave of relief, how do you disarm the sympathy trap without becoming cold or totally cynical about other people? Well, it all comes down to introducing just a little bit of logic back into a very emotionally charged situation. Here is your 3-step defense plan. These steps aren't about rejecting empathy. They're about learning how to spot the difference between the real thing and a cheap knockoff. We're going to look at the validation versus action test, the power of a simple 5-minute delay, and the tactic of insisting on mutual reciprocity. First up, step 1, the validation versus action test. The next time someone gives you that perfect, profound validation, especially if it comes right before a request, just pause, take a breath, and ask yourself this one simple question. Is this person's past behavior consistent with how kind their words are right now? Look at their track record. Do their actions back up their empathetic language? Or is there a pattern where they only seem to understand you when they need something? Real compassion shows up in consistent action, not just in pretty words delivered at the perfect moment. Step 2 is incredibly simple, but it is remarkably effective. Implement the 5-minute delay. When you feel that rush of gratitude after being validated and a request immediately follows, just don't agree to anything for at least 5 minutes. Tell them you need to think about it, that you need to check your calendar, or just physically step away. This simple delay acts like a psychological circuit breaker. It gives that euphoric, disarming feeling a chance to wear off, which lets your logical brain come back online so you can properly evaluate the request. And finally, step 3, insist on mutual reciprocity. Think of this as a quick test to expose their real intent. After they make their big demand, you counter with a small, reasonable request of your own. It doesn't have to be a big deal at all. Now, a genuinely empathetic person in a real 2-way relationship will probably agree or at least talk about it with you. But a manipulator, someone who is only on a 1-way street heading toward their own goal, they will almost always refuse, deflect, or even get irritated. And that reaction tells you everything you need to know. It exposes the whole interaction as one-sided and transactional. So when you boil all of this down, what are we left with? We arrive at the core takeaway. It's the fundamental difference between what real support looks like and what a carefully crafted manipulation feels like. It's all about understanding versus action. And here it is. This is the single biggest lesson to walk away with. Genuine compassion serves your well-being. Its goal is to support you, period. Pseudo-compassion, on the other hand, only serves the manipulator's agenda. Its goal is to get something from you. One is a gift, given freely. The other is an investment the manipulator makes, and you can bet they're expecting a return that benefits only them. So let's bring this all together. Just remember this. False empathy is the sympathy trap. It's a calculated strategy that weaponizes your most fundamental human need, the need to be validated right against you. It feels good in the moment, but that good feeling, that's just the bait. The pattern is predictable, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Their emotional mirroring creates a powerful sense of indebtedness in you. That feeling is then immediately leveraged for coercion, pressuring you to give them what they want. But this loop isn't unbreakable. Your awareness is the key. Your awareness is what shatters the whole mechanism. By using the validation versus action test and enforcing that simple 5-minute delay, you reintroduce logic back into the equation. You break the loop. Because in the end, it all comes down to this simple, powerful truth. Understanding is not a substitute for ethical action. Words that aren't backed up by character and consistent good behavior are just, well, they're just words. And that is the key to disarming the sympathy trap and reclaiming your power.